I wonder if we'll have this many Spider-Men one day. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be giving you my ranking of all the live-action Batman films from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, this goes all the way back to Adam West's Batman and ends with the Batman starring Robert Pattinson. But before I give you guys my ranking of these movies, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below your ranking of all the live-action Batman films, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my Batman content coming this week. So coming in dead last comes as no surprise, Batman and Robin is the worst Batman movie. There's not much for me to say about this one. Obviously, this movie is extremely cheesy. It goes without saying. There's nothing redeemable about this movie. It's very irritating and just straight up a stupid movie. You've got Bane running around, Poison Ivy in the side plotline, and Mr. Freeze is the main villain, but none of it really clicks together to have any chemistry. I think George Clooney is a very uninspired casting of Batman. It just really makes no sense to me. It's almost like they just took some of the biggest stars and threw them into this movie. This entire movie's a miss. You've got Robin running around, Batgirl running around, Batman himself. None of the pieces of the puzzle click together. It is definitively the worst Batman movie. Not far in front of Batman, Robin is going to be its predecessor, Batman Forever. This movie stars Val Kilmer in the lead role of Bruce Wayne / Batman, and he is also just a very bizarre casting choice for the lead role because he's so stiff in the Batman suit, and as Bruce Wayne, he doesn't really have any cool features that really make him stand out as Batman, and he just feels like he's there simply. Like, there's nothing remarkable about him, nothing memorable about him. I guess the Robin origin story is fine in this movie, but the villains are laughably bad, from Tommy Lee Jones basically just running around doing stupid faces the entire time, to the Riddler being extremely cringe with Jim Carrey, who I am moderately a fan of, but his Riddler is a massive L for me. This is one of the harder Batman movies for me to get through. I find it basically unwatchable. It's slightly more redeemable and better than Batman and Robin, but at the end of the day, the Joel Schumacher era Batman films are the worst by far. So next for me might be a hot take, and that's Batman Returns. I think this movie is also extremely painful to get through. It's only a 2-hour runtime, but it drags so much at times, especially whenever Penguin's on screen. Danny DeVito's portrayal of this character is insufferable at times, and he's just such an irritating villain who disgusts me genuinely. I know that's his purpose, but whenever he's on screen, I get the ick. Like, I don't even want to look at the movie when he's on screen because of the way he makes different characters feel and just is always uncomfortable. Like, there's a discomfort with these movies, and that could definitely come from Tim Burton's directorial style, which is more gothic and dark. It's never really been something I really take enjoyment with. So it's definitely not my thing. I think the Catwoman origin story is totally bizarre here, and it's bold of them to even have Batman in the title of this movie because he's barely in this. He barely even returns in this film, and he's not even in like the first 30 minutes. So I don't know why they even bothered calling this a Batman movie and wasting Michael Keaton's potential. I'm excited to see him come back in The Flash, but this movie is painful to get through. And I know people jokingly call it a Christmas movie. I'll have none of that. So next up on my list is actually going to be Batman 1966, the one that started it all for the live-action Batman films. And I like this movie. It's endearing. Like, it's obviously extremely cheesy and tacky for its time. People get punched and it says pow, boom, bam on the screen. That's just something that they did. It's something iconic, and I don't know if it's because it feels like it's a product of its time, but this movie's a lot more enjoyable than the ones that I listed before. Adam West as Bruce Wayne and Batman does have a certain charisma to him where he can carry the screen, and I like his relationship with Robin, Burt Ward, who plays this character extremely cheesy when he's like, holy cow, Batman, or whatever situation they're in. He'll say, holy, and then insert word here. Holy sardine! It's like getting in a time machine when you go watch this movie and looking back into a glimpse from the past, so I have to give it respect because it is the one that started it all, and we wouldn't have the other Batman movies without that template that was set. Next on my list is actually going to be Batman 1989, which stars Michael Keaton. This is the first Tim Burton Batman film. You've got Jack Nicholson and Joker. At this point, I would say it is iconic, one of his more iconic roles, but the movie itself is just fine to me. I don't have any major issues with it. It is just a little off to me, and it's a 2-hour runtime again, and both Tim Burton films are 2 hours and like 6 minutes long, and they overextend their stay. They don't feature enough Batman as they should for a Batman titled film, and the villains get a lot of screen time that I just don't find the most necessary. Joker's arc in this film is very drawn out, and he gets a lot of the screen time in this movie, and these two Batman films are truly anomalies to me, like I mentioned, because every other Batman film features Batman in a significant portion of the scenes, while these focus way more on side stories. This one, you've got Vicky Vale, the news reporter, Joker running around, but Bruce Wayne and Batman is very much just looming in the sideline for a good bit of this movie. And I have to pay respect to this as like a classic 80s film because it did kind of revive Batman and maybe even the comic book genre of movies, but at the end of the day, it's not one I find too much enjoyment with. It has its flaws, it has its highlight moments, especially Danny Elfman's score, which literally I want to inject into my veins. It gets me so amped, but at the end of the day, this movie's just fine to me, and it's nothing too special. Let the controversy begin, because next on my list is Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that when I saw this movie in theaters, I was not a fan of it at all. I disagreed disagree with a lot of the decisions that were made creatively and from a character standpoint, but looking back years later, I went back last year and watched the Ultimate Edition for the very first time, and I can say it is a vast improvement. Now, it's still not a great movie by any means. It still has its flaws that are glaring. It flows a lot more smoothly watching the Ultimate Edition. I really do like Batfleck. I think Ben Affleck gets way too much hate for playing this character. It's really not his fault at the end of the day that some of the movies he was in were just straight up bad. He's a brutal Batman, really unhinged, kind of like in The Dark Knight Returns, and I feel like they didn't do a lot of justice to that, but they still had those elements. I think he's absolutely jacked. He plays the part of Bruce Wayne really well, the way he's able to smooth talk people. I like his relationship with Diana as well, so there's a lot to love with Batfleck, and I think that he just gets the short end of the stick because his movies weren't the best. Before I get into my top 4, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below your favorite Batman movies. From here on out, everything is like a massive step up. So my bottom 3 is a tier, and then everything else was a tier, and then this is its own like god level tier, I would almost say. So number 4 on my list is going to be Batman Begins. Now, I love this origin story. It's one of my favorite superhero origin stories of all time. The first hour of this movie in particular is standout to me when we get to see Bruce training, kind of coming of his own, especially the scenes with Ra's al Ghul on the ice with their sword fighting. I love that. This also establishes a new and very realistic world, Gotham City, where this could happen in the real world. It doesn't feel too comic booky, but it still has comic book elements, especially the character of Scarecrow, played brilliantly by Cillian Murphy. The last act of this movie is definitely the weaker part of the film, I would say, but overall, it is a fantastic origin story, and it kickstarts the Dark Knight trilogy perfectly. I don't have many flaws with Batman Begins, and a lot of people would even say it might be the best of the trilogy. Number 3 on my list is actually going to be The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I love this movie. I know it gets a lot of hate, and it's very critiqued, especially for the last act, the way it handles the death of Bane, and of course, the Talia al Ghul character's death is extremely cheesy, but that's one tiny moment in the film, so I'm not going to sit here and over-critique it. This is one of the most inspiring movies to me. The scene where Bruce Wayne climbs out of the pit is one that I try and watch every few days to really get amped and jacked. It gets the juices flowing. I mean, when he refuses the rope and they all start chanting and then he just makes the jump, it's perfect. And then he comes back to Gotham City and just kicks major ass, saving the city. It's a perfect Batman story in my opinion. And I do think Bane is a very menacing villain. Tom Hardy plays him super well. He gets jacked and he literally sends Batman to hell at one point in this movie when he breaks his back and has him sent out to that pit. This is a perfect ending to the Dark Knight trilogy. The final few moments of this film never fail to give me chills, maybe even make me teary-eyed, and that is major credit due to Hans Zimmer's score, which this might be his best entry in the Dark Knight trilogy when it comes to his scores, because he is a master, but this might just be his best. Anne Hathaway as Catwoman is overhated as well. I love her character. I think that her relationship with Bruce is very fleshed out, and she has this cool vibe to her where I buy into her as Catwoman and being a smart thief. It is a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, but the opening's epic. I'm on the ride from start to finish, and the third act in particular is a standout. I love this movie. But it's just behind my number 2 movie, which is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight's a modern classic. There's not much I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said. We all know Heath Ledger, rest in peace, gave one of the best performances of all time as Joker. He's a terrifying villain, one of the scariest comic book movie villains ever, I would say. The score by Hans Zimmer, again, is absolutely wonderful in this film. And I would go as far as to say this might be the most quotable Batman movie ever. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Why so serious? The opening of this movie is insanely well done. It has one of the coolest endings in movies when Gordon starts to voice over and Batman rides off into the night. There is just so much that works in this movie. I think the third act, again, is a little bit weaker than the first two, but overall, it's a 5 out of 5 movie. Really perfect, and it might be Christopher Nolan's best movie. The way it shows the chaos of Gotham City, the downfall of men, like it conquers a lot of really deep themes in this movie, but it just falls short of my number 1 spot. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there's a new king in town. My number 1 Batman movie is going to be Matt Reeves' The Batman. I have a full review. Make sure to check it out for my in-depth thoughts with this movie. It's about a 12-minute long video, but I'll go ahead and say off the bat, this is a detective epic of a movie, something we've been lacking in Batman. We really get to see him investigate murders and track down different people in the city of Gotham. There are really amazing shots where we get POVs of him just looking into people and observing. There are even scenes where it's told through the point of view of Bruce Wayne's eyes when he's looking in and observing crimes and investigating different people. Riddler's an absolutely terrifying villain. I mean, this movie is fear-inducing. It freaked me out. It jarred me, especially during the early moments of the film, and the first time we see Riddler is extremely unsettling. I think the score in this movie is magnificent by Michael Giacchino, and I love the action in the movie as well. It's limited, and it's much more of a dialogue-driven film, but that's totally fine by me, because the action sequences, when we do get them, are riveting, especially the Batmobile chase scene with Penguin. And Robert Pattinson is the best Batman in my eyes. He's in the cowl for like 90% of this movie, and I'm not complaining because most of this movie does take place at night with him investigating these different murders. He just has all the attributes of what Batman is, from the voice to the look to the way he has this posture about him. I love Pattinson as the Caped Crusader. The movie also fleshes out every supporting character, from Riddler as a villain to Catwoman to Penguin even. I mean, I can't wait to see a Penguin show down the road. This also reminds me so much of those Arkham video games, which I adore, and that's some of my favorite iterations of Batman as a story where we really just get to see him be a detective. And I know I've kind of beat it on the head that it's a detective story, but it really is, whereas the other Batman films, it feels like he's just fighting crime. This is him straight up early on solving crime. Matt Reeves knocked it out of the park with this movie, and I think this is the start of something truly special. I can't wait to see a few more films down the road from Pattinson, hopefully. But that's going to do it for my ranking of all the live-action Batman films. Definitely drop yours in the comments down below. Do you like the Batman or the Dark Knight better? Is the Batman overrated already? Do you have it lower on your list? I want to know if you think I placed these movies in a crazy order. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future Batman content coming very soon. I got a ton of videos coming this week. Some might already be out. Some are coming soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. I also have a Patreon with some Batman-related videos dropping if you want extra videos, want to support the channel. That is linked down below as well. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.